Welcome back to another episode of the Northern Steel Podcast. This is episode 16 for your smooth listening purposes. We've been doing this for 4 months. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
That's good, quick math. Yeah.
Well, it's probably longer than 4 months. We took a couple of breaks here and there, but in all total, 4 months. That's kind of crazy. Welcome back, man. We're here. We're chilling. We're doing the same thing we do every week. We're looking for Steeler news. We're not finding much. But we're going to talk about a little things here and there, and we're going to continue on with our segment we started last week where we're talking to you. We're talking to Yins about your fandom, your story, how you're a Steeler fan. Because Chris and I, we're from Minnesota. We started this podcast. We told you our story. Let's hear from the community. Let's hear from everybody else. Let's get closer together as a team. One brotherhood.
Again, Steelers are not a gate-kept team. So, like Dom was saying, we're reaching out to everybody. We want to welcome you, unless you're from... No, I'm kidding. But seriously, we want to welcome all people who want to be on. It would be awesome to hear your story and everything. And we'll get a little bit of a neat story later on in the podcast. So stay tuned for that one.
So let's talk about some quick Steeler news. One of the first things I want to talk about, Chris... there wasn't a lot that happened, but if you're a Steeler fan, did you know that Kenny Pickett was on the Pat McAfee show this past week?
I did. I happened to watch that a couple days ago, and we got about it exactly what we expected it to be. I mean, Pat McAfee if you watch any of a Pat McAfee show, it's really enjoyable. It's really comical. But at the same time, you don't really get as much information as like what you're hoping to get.
Right.
Yeah.
So he, like Chris said, Pat McAfee, he asked pretty basic questions. He doesn't want to, break the mold too much. It's also kind of for comedy purposes as well, too, right? So Kenny talked a little bit about his OTA stuff, his training camp, but nothing too crazy. Just kind of that he's worked with the team. He's doing that. He's talked about a little bit about hanging out with some football legends like Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, and talked a little bit about him and Tomlin, how they trash talk each other. So it's a pretty fun interview. It's not very long. I'd definitely recommend checking that out, listening to that. And other news. This does relate to Steelers, but I wanted to say that Terry McLaurin got a brand new contract. Was it 3 or 4 years, Chris? Do you remember?
It was a 3-year, $71 million contract, I believe.
Yes, I think it was like 23.7 mil or something like that. Almost $24 million a year.
Yeah, it's about Christian Kirk money, I believe.
Christian Kirk money for a guy who plays way better than Christian Kirk. And again, we've talked about this before. That's just the market, man. That's that wide receiver market. And the reason why I brought this up, why it relates to Steelers news, is because we're talking about Diontae Johnson. And we've talked about it many times. I know some fans say he doesn't deserve the money, or some fans say he deserves the money. Chris and I think he deserves the money, but we've also said we're not going to be heartbroken if they decide not to pay him. If this is the last of the Steelers, so be it. It doesn't mean I don't like Diontae Johnson. It's just kind of how it is. That's the market. It's crazy.
Look at this, right? Exactly like you said. I personally, looking at what happened with the Terry McLaurin and that signing that huge 3-year, $71 million contract, it's hard for Diontae to not see that and be like, well, realistically, I've been more productive. I make that impact. And maybe I know Terry McLaurin kind of gets underlooked mostly because he's on the Commanders. I mean, not a lot of people really pay too close of an attention, or at least it doesn't really get brought over here. But I mean, Diontae Johnson is such a presence. I think he definitely deserves that money, and there's no way he's going to sign for anywhere under $20 million. He's definitely going to be looking well north of that number, I would imagine. At least at that same realm of Terry McLaurin. And I think he's...
Yeah, I don't think he'll get the same money as Terry. It'll be close, maybe like 21 to 22, just like a little bit under. Because I don't think he's the same. I do think Terry is a better receiver. Personally, I do like Diontae Johnson. I just think Terry's really solid. He's also had some bad quarterbacks. I as a football fan, I'm excited to see what Terry can do with Carson as his quarterback, especially if Carson can turn it back around. And now that Terry actually has a number 2 on his team, I know they always talked about Curtis Samuel, but Jahan Dotson is who they drafted, and we went over him, and he's a stud. So I'm excited for him to actually get someone else on his team.
The same thing could be said in regards to us, though, because obviously he was like Ben's guy these last couple of years as kind of like that safety blanket. And now that we have a quarterback like Trubisky and or Pickett who can throw the ball, have a little bit more zip, it'll be interesting to see how he can maybe extend or, achieve a higher level of play with a new quarterback. But yeah, like I said before, I totally think he's very deserving. Now, if it happens, who knows? Obviously, there's a reason that we drafted 2 very capable wide receivers, and I'm really curious to see how both Pickens and Calvin Austin will be. Yep. Not saying that we won't sign them, but like obviously after Deontay's contract year, we have Claypool's coming up soon. So there's a lot to think about as far as our wide receiver room and where money should go. Obviously, we are ranked at number 32 in paying in our offense. So that number could change potentially with the signing of Deontay if we do sign him. But like I said, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. If we sign him, great. If not, then I think we have one more solid year out of him, and then we have capable wide receivers underneath.
Well said. Well said. Last bit of news is as of today, which when we record, it's a Wednesday. As of today, on this Wednesday, the Deshaun Watson hearing case has not been decided yet, unfortunately.
Sure.
I'm sure it will be decided by the end of tomorrow or the day that you're listening to it on Thursday. I'm sure it'll be done, and unfortunately we don't have that to talk about. We will be talking about that on the podcast for sure next week. It just is unfortunate we're going to miss out on it. Kind of the same thing happened last week when I told everyone not to worry about Kenny Pickett not being signed yet, and literally the next day Kenny Pickett signed his rookie contract.
We're this close to the breaking news and everything.
Always just one step behind every time.
Seriously. I do have one more thing if you're finished up with the Deshaun Watson. I'm not really sure when this article was released. I definitely could have looked, but it was in the recent week. I saw a tweet and read a story about how Tomlin sounds like he's stepping down from the defensive play calling, stepping into the 2022 season, which I thought was very interesting. I read a little bit about it, and it sounds like, and as you know, he kind of went over and took the helm. I think it was a kind of a group effort, but it sounds like Tomlin was the main source for a lot of our defensive play calling, and that started in 2013. And so it sounds like this is the first time that he's not going to be the person to make those calls, which is good because obviously you have a defensive coordinator for a reason. I know a lot of people gave Dick LeBeau a hard time towards the end of his time in Pittsburgh because they're like, oh, he just doesn't have it anymore. I don't know if that's necessarily the case because, Tomlin kind of started creeping his way in here, and rightfully so because he had a lot of defensive background, but it'll be interesting. And I did read too that with Terrell Austin doing a lot of the play calling now, being the defensive coordinator, Tomlin feels comfortable and confident in his guy. And he said, especially with the signing of Brian Flores as the defensive assistant, he's like, hey, Flores has a crazy, incredible creative mind. It's going to be more of a collective group effort to make play calls, but it sounds like Tomlin's going to be kind of taking a step to the side and trusting in the coaching staff around him to make some of those calls. So I'm kind of excited to see how that's going to translate moving into next season with our defense.
Yeah, agreed. Because it's not like our defense has been bad, but you're right. I mean, we have a defense coordinator for a reason, and maybe that can help things out in other ways too. Can kind of pull it in a different direction that maybe has shown stubbornness in the past. What we're going to do next, Chris, is we're going to jump into our segment that we started last week. We're talking to Yins. We're talking to everyone about their fandom and about what made them a Steelers fan. And we got a guy who we've talked to. We've communicated back and forth on Twitter a couple times on some questions and some other things. We just met him for a brief second. He's very, very cool. So I'm going to shoot him a message right now and get him on here. His name is Jay. So everyone be pumped.
Seriously, very excited to talk to him.
Very smooth.
Yeah. We're working on our transitions. Speaking of transitions, I've been working on this little jingle for a while. This is the transition into our next segment, meeting you from the outside. It sounds like a Stranger Things thing, which is cool because episode 8 comes out on Friday. But here it goes. Two Minnesota boys reaching out to you. We are gonna talk and see it through. Pittsburgh is the place to be. Pittsburgh, I wanna see anyone who wants to talk to us. Can he get on?
Very good.
It's kind of like a rough draft a little bit. I'm waiting for the instrumentals. Sent it in a while back, so
Yeah. We'll get that started right away. Oh, hey, there he is.
What's going on, guys? What's going on?
Welcome, Jay. Welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Woo!
Thank you.
Welcome, Jay. Jay has been talking to us. Jay is a Steeler fan. He's been a Steeler fan his whole life, and he wants to share his story about his fandom. So we got some general questions for you, man. We're just going to hang out. We're going to have fun. We're going to have a good time. So why don't you tell the people, Jay, where are you from?
Well, I'm from a small town in North Carolina called Forest City, but most people won't know where that is. So I just claim Charlotte. Everyone knows where Charlotte, North Carolina is. And that's where I currently reside.
Perfect. So you lived in North Carolina your whole life then?
Yes.
Very cool. I've never been to North Carolina. Is it like, what's the weather like there? What's the kind of place like?
Well, right now it's hot.
Yeah.
It's been hot for North Carolina is like in the 80s, 88, 89.
Sure.
But yeah, it could pour down rain in 10 minutes and then snow in the next 30. So North Carolina weather is all over the place.
Sounds like Minnesota.
Very much like Minnesota. Sure. Got it. Why don't you tell the people, how long have you been a Steelers fan?
Oh man, I've been a Steelers fan since I was maybe I started playing football at the age of 6 or 7. So sure. I've probably been a Steelers fan since I was around 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So I was 8 or 9 years old.
So are your parents Steelers fans at all?
Yes, both of them. My mom and my dad Steelers fans. Both grew up Steelers fans because North Carolina didn't have a team when they were growing up.
Sure.
So, that they became fan. My dad was a huge Steel Curtain fan. So
how can you not be?
Yeah, right. And he just forced it in on me, So I was a Deion Sanders fan for a little bit, but I was just a Deion Sanders fan. I like when I play football, I like putting the bandana on.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, that's all good. Deion Sanders, obviously he's a legend, but like we've all had that too. I remember when Chris and I were kids, we were Steeler fans, but also Peyton Manning fans. It was like, if the Steelers weren't in it, it's like, well, let's have the Colts win. How about that?
Yeah.
And that was the only team that I was able to beat my brother in Madden with was the Colts at that time. So they have a special place in my heart, that's for sure.
The funny thing is I used to play, when I played Madden when I was younger, I would always pick the Saints.
Okay.
And my reason for picking the Saints was just for jersey color.
Sure.
That's it. Just to change the jersey colors. That's it.
Man, their jersey color is sweet, though. It for sure is.
Oh, yeah.
So with your parents being Steeler fans, would you say like most Steeler fans, you were kind of born into it? Like you didn't really have a choice, obviously?
Yeah, I did kind of have a choice because my mom's uncles both played in the NFL.
Oh.
So they're kind of my great uncles, but
hold on,
it's weird.
Hold on.
Family's weird. So
Hold
You
on.
don't just drop that news and then like keep riding with it. You're like, by the way, I have 2 NFL uncles, and then let me totally drop that story right now.
Do you want to give him a shout out, or do you want to keep that private? That's up to you.
Oh no, yeah! Big shout out to my uncle Chuck McSwain. He was the backup running back for the Dallas Cowboys.
Let's go.
He backed up Tony Dorsett.
Oh,
And shout out to my other uncle that also played. He played for the Patriots, so he was actually on that Patriots team that played against the Fridge. And back in those Patriot and Bears times and all of that stuff. So
wow!
and I actually have a cousin that's in the NFL right now.
What?
Yeah, he plays for the Dallas Cowboys too, Carlos Watkins. So
Hey, shout out to that man.
shout out to
That's
Carlos
awesome.
Watkins.
That's great. Holy smokes!
So
Guess
do you
you're
get to go out often and like watch your cousin play, or like?
Oh yeah. So I haven't. Well, when COVID hit, we kind of I haven't been traveling as much since COVID hit. But right before COVID, the Steelers played. My cousin Carlos was with the Houston Texans, and we played Houston Texans in Houston. If you remember when I think it was Vince Williams, Hopkins scored the touchdown and he did So I was at that game. It was nice.
That's a legendary moment from Vince Williams for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Man.
So I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were saying that like you had some choice, you had some options to choose some teams because of your family in the NFL.
Yeah.
But you picked the right choice.
Oh yeah, definitely. So listen, my dad can say no wrong, and he said the team is the Steelers, and I said okay, the team is the Steelers. So
You
I
got that
went
right.
with it.
For
Say
sure,
yes,
man.
Dad.
Yeah. I mean, very, very similar for us too. Our dad was a big Steelers fan. We grew up in Minnesota with the obviously Vikings here. But we never had like an interest at all to like the Vikings. I think when Chris and I first decided to start watching football, we were like, you know what? Let's watch the team that my dad is obsessed about. Let's watch the games with him because that would make it more fun. We watched the Steelers, and the very first year Chris and I watched a full season, they won the Super Bowl. And we were hooked ever since. Obsessed. And that's just the way it goes. So, pardon me as I pull up my notes. So I guess your parents made you a Steelers fan. Was there any other besides your parents having an influence on you becoming a Steelers fan? Was there like anything else that gravitated you towards that? Was it about the players you were watching at the time or anything?
Yeah, Cordell Stewart.
Yeah, Cordell.
That was he. I mean, man, I want to say, and my memory is terrible, but I want to say Cordell played at Colorado, right?
I think so, actually.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if y'all remember this. Y'all might be a little. I'm a little on the older side. So I don't know if y'all remember Bill Walsh college football on the Sega Genesis.
No.
They can't say, yeah.
So there was a Bill Walsh college football game, and Cordell Stewart was by far the fastest player on the game, period.
Yes, sir.
You hiked the ball, you did a rollout, and you scored a touchdown. And that made me like Cordell Stewart. And yeah, so I was a big Cordell Stewart fan, and the slash and all of that. So that's what got me liking him the most.
That's a great reason as any, for sure, to like him. I mean, our fandom too kind of started with video games as well. We like jumped on Madden first, and then we watched football. And so I totally understand. I feel the exact same way. We actually also we're not that much younger than you, but we are a little bit younger than you. And that's also a good point. Is like you watched you watched the 90s teams and you watched some early 2000s team. Chris and I started watching football in 2004, and we are blessed, to have never seen a true losing season. Yeah. So, of course I know who Cordell is, and I know some of the bigger players, but we don't know all those players from the 90s. We didn't watch them then. So it's cool to, get some more introspective on that for sure.
Oh yeah. Those teams. I mean, Cordell was definitely a big name, but those were some those were some down years. You know, we went through some rough times, and I always say for people to stick through those teams, if you can stick through those teams and watch what these teams are doing now, like you said, we haven't had a losing season in God, how many years? And
18.
Yeah, and it's like 18 years of no losing seasons, and you know, some people I feel like take that for granted when
for sure.
you know you got to see Cordell Stewart's teams play
For sure.
So you know it was some rough times. So right now I enjoy, even when we do have those 8-8 seasons.
Yes.
You know, it's still to me entertaining, and I still feel like we do a good job.
I agree. I think a lot of times I personally get a little annoyed because, like, obviously I let trolls on Twitter get the best of me all the time, and they're like going after Tomlin's head, and they're like, gosh, we haven't won the playoff. We haven't. I'm like, man, but dude, we haven't lost. Like I remember parts of years where we'll start off and, you know, we'll be a big roller coaster ride. Like we'll win a couple, lose a couple. And Dom and I are always like, you know, if we get 8-8, that's another not losing season. And like, you know, right. I hate that it's like the bar's here, but it's cool because the bar is here. It's not like, hey, maybe we can get that first draft pick. Maybe it's like, that's never a question for us. You know,
never a question.
It's always like, hey, can we get like 10 wins? Can we get like 12 or something like that? So it's cool.
Yeah. And I do think that, like, don't get me wrong, we are optimistic. I think there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to this year. It is going to be different. So, you know, with the AFC being a lot more difficult, if the Steelers end up losing a lot of games, and maybe if they do happen to get their first losing record this year, I'm not going to be super depressed or super upset yet, because I think this is kind of like a new era, a growing year. Yeah. So we don't know what's going to happen. So it kind of is what it is.
Exactly. I mean, this year is a trial year. I mean, we're going into it. I mean, the first year in 20 plus that we don't have a franchise quarterback.
Right.
You know, so and we have a super young team now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you know, if we do have, like you said, if we do have that losing season this year, at least we get to see what we got in these young guys.
Totally.
And that helps. I mean, having the losing season, getting the higher draft pick, you know, we can bring in someone that we would need that can possibly fill that void.
Right.
But I honestly don't even feel like it's a huge void to fill. Like, we just got to hope that the quarterback play is good. Our defense is set. We're trying to get the line back right. I mean,
or at least
we just don't know because of the quarterback.
Yeah, or at least good enough. Because that's all we kind of need right now. But even Ben, it's like we just need him good enough. So we just need someone who can convert some third downs now and then. And that's pretty much what we need the most right now. Exactly. And Ben kind of was the GOAT quarterback for us for so long. And I hate that he may have played 1 or 2 years too long. For sure. Because, you know, just seeing his arm last year, it just wasn't there. Like, I mean, if you watch football, you could just see it wasn't there. Yeah. So I hate seeing him go out that way. But even with a failing arm, Ben Roethlisberger, we were still there. Yeah. So he still was able to do some fourth quarter comebacks. And you know what? We talked about it last week too. We were still very excited that they made the playoffs. And that to us was almost like, boom, that's where the story ends. That's like the Cinderella story. Because we all knew they were going to lose to the Chiefs. That wasn't like a shock.
Right.
You know? So it was like, oh, cool. At least they made it. That's so great.
You know, and I keep thinking about Good Morning Football, if you watch it or not, with Kyle Brandt and all those guys. But, you know, he made a video on there and about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because everybody's talking us down. They're like, you know, they're going to be the bottom. They're going to lose. And he's like, no, they're not. Listen, like, I'm not buying it. The Steelers are the Steelers. They don't ever play for anything low. Like, they're going to find a way to win. They're going to find a way to make the playoffs. Depending on how far they take it, that's the thing. But like, dude, we're competitive, and I don't think Tomlin's gonna. Oh, geez, my mic. I don't think Tomlin's gonna allow. I'm falling apart over here. Tomlin's gonna allow us to, you know, hit that new low. We're always gonna be competitive. We're always gonna be out there fighting. So
for sure.
Yeah, I believe in in Tomlin. I do. I think what he says and how he goes about his team is a great coach. Like
Totally.
it's. I mean, a coach can only do so much. The players have to perform, but his values and everything that he wants to instill in his players is something that I would love to have in a coach.
Tomlin is
in any sport.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I mean,
yes.
I've always liked Tomlin, and he's always had ways of phrasing things that even go over my head. but like, even I was listening to the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark when he interviewed him, and gosh, it's so refreshing because he's such a player's coach, and it's like, how do you not like Tomlin? He's just so good at what he says, and he's like, he cares so much about the players and just everything. He's such a good dude.
Yeah.
And how do you not notice that he's like, and how do you not recognize too that he is a great coach, Hall of Fame worthy coach too? I mean, I know people don't think he is, but I mean, there's a reason, but we don't not get on all that. But he is a Hall of Fame coach for sure.
Like, I mean, so I hate when some people come on and they say, "Well, he inherited somebody else's players."
Oh yeah.
And it's like, that is such a scam because you still have to coach those players. Like,
exactly.
You still have to get those players ready to play, and he at the very least, and you can tell me how many other coaches have done this. He at least gets his players ready to win at least half the games every year.
Now here's a dream scenario for you. Hold on, Chris. Here's a dream scenario for you. They win the Super Bowl this year. Now what are you going to say? These are all his own players now. So he wins it. What are you going to say now? Exactly.
Dude, exactly.
And Jay, I cannot agree with you more. I mean, like, there was a time when I probably just followed the media. I have to admit it. I was young. I was naive a little bit, but like, if you think about it, even if he did inherit a team, I'm pretty sure the year before he took the helm at head coach, the Steelers went 8-8 that season with Bill Cowher in his final season. I don't think that's a Super Bowl winning team, an 8-8 team,
Not at all.
Yeah, exactly. And then he took them, to the Jags when they missed that horrible holding call when we should have won that game in that playoffs.
Yeah.
But then the year after that, to take that same group of men over to the Super Bowl, I think that first year was like, let me build that respect. He could have done it, but like, then he did it the next year. That was his team.
Yeah, definitely. And we've all, like, he's fallen like a couple plays short of winning another one or getting even further every time. Like, if you look at the teams that we had when we had the Killer Bees.
Oh man!
Yes, we had the Killer Bees. That was awesome. That was great. But who did we have on defense worth naming in the secondary?
You get me started.
We had Zillamane. Like,
I was about to say, don't get me started, but you get me started. I'm about to be like 2017. 2017 to me was like, this, like, they should have won it. And then of course Shazier's injury that like really derailed it. I mean, not his fault. That's a freak thing. 2015 was another great year. They should have won it. And then that's the Bengal game in the playoffs. AB gets concussed. Ben gets hurt. We got Walmart employee running the ball at running back. I mean, it's just a couple things here and there. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's and then we couldn't keep all our players either healthy or
never
off the weed.
So true.
So I mean, we had so many things that was outside of Mike Tomlin's ability to control that we had to go through, and we still were a competitive team, and we were still there. We just, like you said, I don't even remember who that running back was, but I feel like he was like, we got him from like the Browns or something.
We did. Yeah, we did. We picked up a guy from the Browns. It was like him and Fitzgerald Toussaint, I believe, was one of the guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, which is like, what is that name? Who is that?
Exactly. And most people, if you showed a picture of him in uniform, they'd be like, who?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, I mean, he's dealt with a lot of stuff.
it's just talking shop, man. I had all these questions. We're just talking shop. We're just hanging out. We're just doing our thing. But you know what? Speaking of this like big Steelers rant, let's go back to these questions real quick because I want to know what is it like being a fan in North Carolina. Obviously, North Carolina is home. You have the Panther fans, and Steelers don't play the Panthers a lot, so it might be similar to our situation. It's not maybe a big rivalry, but what's that like for you?
Man, listen, we have a Steelers bar.
Yes, sir.
In Charlotte.
So do we.
We have a Steelers bar in Charlotte. I lived in Raleigh, Durham for about 8 years.
Yep.
I just moved back to Charlotte like a couple months ago. So I lived in Raleigh, Durham. There are like 3 Steelers bars out there.
Nice.
So,
Let's go.
I mean, and if you ever go to I know we usually play the Panthers in like the preseason games a lot. And when you go to the stadiums, there are terrible towels everywhere.
Yes.
And walking into the stadium, you see so many like just people, I can't remember what it's called now. Like the pre, how they pregame.
Yeah.
Like the tailgate. It's so many Steelers fans tailgating. At the game when we played them in regular season a few years ago, we killed them. Like it wasn't the game in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it was.
It was the game in Charlotte.
Oh no! They played them in 2018 in Pittsburgh. Because I was there at that one. I went to that one. It was a Thursday night game.
Yeah, that one, and then like before that, when Panthers had like Kelvin Benjamin and all of them, where they thought Kelvin Benjamin was going to be this great player.
Yep.
I did too. I kind of wanted the Steelers to get him, but glad we didn't. Dodged the bullet.
Yeah, for sure.
But just seeing people at that game, at the regular season games, and I'm psyched about this year because we play them in a regular season game this year. Yeah, and I'm definitely going to be there. So it's terrible towels everywhere.
Dude, that's awesome.
Everywhere.
Steeler bar. I mean, we have a main one here in Minneapolis that we have been to a lot of times, and that's awesome. And that's kind of the whole thing while we're doing this thing, man. It's like people don't realize like how many Steeler fans are in a population all over the nation. Really, I mean, how many cities have bars for other teams? And
right.
This is now like the third one I've heard where like a different city has a Steelers Central bar, which is crazy. It's very awesome.
Yes. And they go out too. Yeah. They turn up in those places. Like the Steelers score, they're playing Here We Go. Before like in the fourth quarter, they're playing Renegade. Like it's crazy.
It's awesome. Crazy. That's a good experience. What is your favorite? Okay, it's a slightly bold question because you've been watching the Steelers for a long time. But what is, if you had to narrow it down to one, what's your favorite memory of watching the Steelers?
Oh man, so it's definitely gonna have to be the Christmas Antonio Brown reach game. Yep. I was there.
Oh,
I was at that game. I was in the end zone that he done it.
Ooh.
It was crazy. The stadium was so loud on that Christmas night game. It was
my gosh.
By far the best experience I've ever been to. I
don't blame you. That's insane. Oh my, we just talked about that game recently because I said that was one of my favorite memories. But we were at home on the couch. And I just remember sitting during that game like in silence and my arms were crossed. And I was just like analyzing the game, and I was like, God, we're losing. And I was just like watching it. I didn't say a word. And up until like literally that AB touchdown, and then I just like went nuts. I was boasting, I was bragging, I was going crazy.
You could not hear yourself yell. It was so loud in that stadium. It was so cold too.
Yeah.
And I'm out there. I'm not dressed for it. I'm just in a hoodie with my jersey on and some sweatpants, and it freezing cold. And you would have thought I was sweating after he scored that touchdown because it was insane.
Oh man, insane. I can't imagine. So is that? Have you been to a lot of games at Heinz Field? Was that your first game?
No, I try to go every year. I've missed the last 2 years, but yeah, I try to go every year. I actually one year so when Javon Hargrave was on the team, he's actually from North Carolina. He's from Salisbury, North Carolina.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, I guess this is a little sort of a shout out to my ex-girlfriend, but she knew him. So he
shout out.
You know, he sent me a jersey for my birthday and signed it, everything.
What?
And yeah, it was so nice. It was so dope. But yeah, I got a Javon Hargrave jersey signed, and that's one of my only jerseys of players who aren't with the Steelers that I kept.
Yeah.
But you know, and I don't burn. I'm not a jersey burner, so no, I'm definitely not that. I just stash them away.
You got the craziest connections. You got the crazy.
It was,
and now we're connected. So hook us up.
Got you. Every year since my cousin has been in the NFL, I'm like, man, go call Tomlin. Call Tomlin.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when he was at Clemson, like doing the pro days and all of that stuff, he actually went to dinner with Tomlin. And I'm like, stay in Tomlin, stay on Tomlin's radar, because I was, and when he went to the Cowboys, I was like, dang, why'd you go to the Steelers? You know,
yeah.
But of course, we have our D line is pretty set, so I just knew that wasn't going to happen anyway.
For sure, yeah, set now, but you never know. People are older, so you never know. Yeah. And also, like with Javon Hargrave too, man. I mean, I don't blame you. Like we loved Hargrave. We were so sad to see him go. And the Eagles have. I know Fletcher Cox is old, but the Eagles having Fletcher Cox and now Jordan Davis. I was like, give us Hargrave back. You don't need him. That's selfish.
Right. Listen, man. I'm really believing after this year, Javon Hargrave is going to come back.
Let's go. Come back, please. That'd be so awesome.
I really believe it'll happen. I honestly have this thought of Javon and Juju coming back.
And Big
could happen for sure.
Well, you know, if he comes back as a quarterback coach, I'd love it.
Yeah. You're gonna call up your ex. You're gonna be calling up your ex-girlfriend and be like, "Let me get Javon's number. Let me get him back on the team. I can convince him. I know I can. I can do it."
She probably won't answer the phone, but you know that's neither here nor there.
That's all good.
We'll have him as a guest on the podcast. We'll convince him on here.
Hey. Right.
I'd be jumping from like 20 listeners to like 25. Who knows? Be going crazy out here.
Listen. If I could, I will definitely throw the lob pass to you to get him on here.
Appreciate that.
Speaking of just players, I mean, with all the connections you have, but players in general, who is your favorite player? And since you've been watching for a while, I guess maybe present right now and past. I'm assuming past might be Cordell, but let's go present and past.
Well, actually, if I go with the past, I'm a huge Hines Ward fan.
Yes, sir.
Like Hines Ward is my favorite.
Yeah, legend.
He is the toughest wide receiver I think the NFL has seen even up till today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I honestly believe that. Juju was like my hopes of a second coming of the Hines Ward 2.0, but Hines Ward is definitely, and just the history of Hines Ward, like it made me like him even more, knowing that he was doing all this with no ACL. Like how? Like what?
Right?
How does that even happen?
And before you say your present player too, I recently, I got bored and I watched some Hines Ward highlights, and it's so crazy how like you forget how they play. Because I watched Hines Ward too. I know he's a legend. Yeah. He's amazing. But and I got to watch him during the Super Bowl runs and stuff. But after seeing the receivers we've had these past maybe 5 years, and then you go back and watch Hines Ward, you're like, oh, it's different. That's why he's as good as he was. It's different.
Exactly. He was not afraid to jump in and do the dirty work. Like he was catching the passes across the middle. He was blocking, and he done all of it with a smile on his face.
Always.
Like, you never caught him not smiling.
Always, hardly ever dropped it. Always catching it over the middle, and when he gets slammed across the middle, didn't care. And sometimes broke the tackle and just kept going. Didn't care at all.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Nuts. So present favorite player.
Let's see. Present.
He's like, they all suck.
Right. And well, no, they don't all suck. I was, man, I really was. I was a huge Antonio Brown fan until he wanted to go crazy on us.
Oh, well, we all were.
But if I would have to say in this team that we have right now,
yeah,
I'm probably I would probably have to say, Jesus, I don't know. I might go with Minkah.
Hey, that's a good.
I might have to go defense.
That's a great choice. He's a great player. He's got like an amazing attitude, and he came in and worked right away. And I think he just got paid too recently, right? Yeah, he just got paid, and he deserves all of that money that he got paid. Yes.
Him, TJ, all them boys. I pay Deontay. Yep. All of them guys deserve it. They had great years. TJ Watt is Jesus. Like I catch myself every time he gets a sack. Whether I'm at a bar or wherever I'm at, I do my TJ Watt kick. Like
you got to.
Have to. It's TJ Watt's great. Cam Hayward's great, but I like Minkah because I played free safety when I was in high school. So
awesome.
It's like, I like Minkah for the
personal connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I tied my high school record in interceptions my freshman year, so I was like, but I was slow, so it didn't translate. And when I caught it, I was immediately tackled. So
hey, at least you caught it. Not everyone can do that, so that's good. What? So I guess one of the last questions I had, because it's been really fun talking to you, man. Like we talked about a lot of stuff here, so. Sometimes I feel like maybe I have to like squeeze some questions out of nowhere and try to use my best improv skills, but I think we've covered a lot. So one of the final questions I want to leave you, we can kind of talk about this a little bit, is what is your prediction for the team this year? Like if you want to give me a record, you can, but like how are you kind of feeling about the team this year?
Honestly, Mitch Trubisky has a great year. Mm-hmm. I honestly think I think it's going to be Mitch Trubisky's year.
Sure.
To redeem himself. They could be biased. I'm a Tar Heel fan.
So true. Yeah.
It could be biased, but I think Mitch redeems himself and has a great year, and he shows people that he doesn't have to. He's not going to have like the Ben Roethlisberger, the Hall of Fame type career. I don't think he'll have a Hall of Fame type of career, but I think he does what he needs to do to get the team to the playoffs. And I think we will get to the playoffs.
You heard it here first.
I don't think people are saying we're going to be last in the conference.
No,
I think we surprised some people. I don't think the Bengals are going to be what we seen last year.
Ooh, hot take.
I really don't.
Hot take. I like it.
I really don't. And I think they will not shut us out again. I think at the very least, we're going to split with the Bengals.
Okay, mark it down.
The Ravens will not have The Ravens will go another year without beating us.
Oh, like it. I like it.
Now these might be some hot takes.
That's fine. Bring it up.
But I honestly think we will finish first or a close second.
What about the Browns? Are we worried about the Browns, or do we not care because the quarterback's going to be wearing a different orange jumpsuit?
Listen, I don't think honestly, I think even if Deshaun Watson plays for them this year in some weird way, if the NFL allows Deshaun Watson to play this year, I still think we beat them. It's the Browns. The Browns are going to be the Browns.
That's right. That's what we keep saying.
They will find a way to lose it. They will.
Sir. I like that.
Jay, the way that it started when you started bringing up Mitch Trubisky, I was like this close, and I was like, he's going to be like, oh yeah, Mitch, I know him personally. Like we played football together, and I'm like, dude, this guy just knows everybody. I swear.
He's a Tar Heel. Went back.
I'm a Tar Heel.
I've been blessed. I'll say this. I've honestly been blessed because I have another uncle that played for the San Diego Chargers when they were in San Diego.
Lord.
So I come from a family of athletes, and unfortunately, I didn't get the height or the size or the speed. So that is I caught the bad part of the family genes, I guess.
Hey, that's all good.
Just from friends, like I played basketball with Brandon Spikes. I don't know if y'all guys remember Brandon Spikes with the Patriots.
What?
Yeah, I played basketball with him. I don't know if you remember Sidney Rice. He actually played for Minnesota.
Bro.
Me and him played on the same basketball team, growing up.
God.
And what's funny about Sidney Rice is nobody on our basketball team knew he played football.
What? No way.
We had no idea he played football. And then we were like, he came out one day and said, "Yeah, I'm signing with the Gamecocks." And we were like, "To play football?"
Jay.
And he was like, "Yeah, play wide receiver." And then I forgot the coach's name that was there at the time, said he might be the best wide receiver he's ever seen play.
He was good.
Yeah, he just injuries killed him.
Yeah.
But
Jay, you're killing me here with these people. You're killing me. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's. I've been blessed to have been around a lot of professional athletes growing up, and
That's awesome,
just
man.
been a good time.
I saw Ben Roethlisberger from really far away, so that counts for something, for sure.
No, listen, if you go to Pittsburgh, stay in the William Penn Hotel.
Okay.
That's where the Steelers stay the night before every football game.
I'm about to stay there. You heard it here. Actually, you did hear. For legal reasons, I'm not going to stay there, but I am winking.
Right. For sure. No, I mean, I have a lot of pictures. I got to meet Joey Porter one year when I stayed at the hotel. What is his name? What was the running back's name that we got from the Panthers?
DeAngelo Williams.
DeAngelo Williams.
DeAngelo Williams. Yeah, DeAngelo Williams came and chilled with me and one of my friends, and and I got to meet Willie Parker and
I love Willie.
Antonio Brown. Like just got to meet those guys as they were coming into the hotel, and so it was a good time.
How does it make you feel? Because obviously you met all these famous people, and now you can add us to that list.
Yeah. So now
listen, y'all are my first podcast. Y'all are my first, probably going to be my only ever podcast. So y'all are definitely a sketch.
You're great, man. and now I know that you're sending these podcasts to all these people and now we're gonna blow up for sure. I guarantee it.
Man, look, I'm gonna get it out there. I'm gonna get it out to the people. I'm gonna let them know.
Hey, thanks, man. Hey, It's been great talking to you, man. Hey, real quick question: Are you going? So you said you go to games all the time, right?
Oh yeah. I'll definitely be at some games this year.
Okay. Do you happen to is there one kind of on your mind that you think you might go to? You're gonna wait till the schedule gets released.
Well, I know I'm gonna be at the Panthers game for sure.
In Carolina.
Yeah, I'm looking at trying to go to a game in October too. Okay. So I don't know which one I'm going to pick in October, but I'm definitely going to try to go. I'm going to try to go to the Atlanta game too.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, you let us know, man, and we'll circle that on our calendar, and we'll be like, Jay's at this game. They better win. They better win for our boy. So
sounds good. Sounds good. I'll definitely keep updated with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Hey, it's been awesome talking to you, Jay. I hope we can talk again more in the future. We can maybe sometime later during the season we'll bring you back on. And we can talk about if your predictions are coming true about the season, or if it's going the other way. But I don't think it will. I agree with you. I think we're going to stay optimistic. But it's been great talking to you, man. I appreciate you being on the podcast with us.
Man, it's been great talking to both of you guys. Hopefully I do get to come back on again. And, I'm praying that the Steelers have the season that we're all looking for.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure.
Yeah, seriously, Jay, this has been a blast, man. Hearing you talk and getting you on here has been honestly an honor. And remind me again, because I want to give you a shout out to our 4 listeners out there. But yeah, you just recently changed your Twitter handle. Handle. I said it right the first time. Wow.
Yeah, you did.
Oh. It was Big Slime.
Yeah, it was Big Slime, but with the whole YSL Young Thug stuff going on, I had to get rid of that.
Okay, so what are we at now?
My Twitter handle now is King_J Ham. So JAY Ham.
All right, you heard it here.
Follow him up on Twitter.
Follow our boy. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank y'all for having me, man.
All right, man. Hey, have a good night, man. I'll message you soon.
All right, you too.
All right, see you, Jay.
Later.
And that was Jay from North Carolina. Give it up for that man. What a great talk. That was awesome, man. That's exactly what I want to do, is talking to these Steelers fans and get to hear from them. And that was a great convo. So if you are listening and happen to have stayed listening this whole time to the podcast, thank you very much. And if that sounds like something fun for you, message us, man. DM us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook. We don't have Facebook. Just message us somewhere and we'll find it. Send us a letter. Send us a carrier pigeon. And we'll get you on the podcast. Because this is fun. This is a good time. I'm going to send them a quick message, Chris. Why don't you take away for a sec?
Yeah. Like Dom was saying, definitely check us out. We're trying to be as active as possible, trying to reach out to the community. The big purpose of this, like Dom said before, is we're just trying to reach out to anyone outside of the Pittsburgh area. We know if you're in Pittsburgh, it's kind of a sin to root for any other team. And we love you. We think of you the exact same way. But we really want to reach out to a bigger community. The Steelers are nationwide. We really want to get you all out here, and we appreciate your energy. It has been honestly so fun talking to last week Charlie all the way in London, and now Jay from North Carolina. Like, God, two really great guys, and dude, we're just so lucky. Honestly, they've been a blast to talk to. So. And also, Jay, when you hear this, man, we expect 2 signed jerseys.
Yep. And I'm kidding.
We just seriously would love to have you on again. So
that was awesome, man. And
it was fun.
I know if you do care about the progression of our podcast and the things we talk about, I know we said last week we were going to talk about an all-time defensive team, but we're not going to do that because this has been a long podcast because we had a great conversation. So save that for maybe next week, maybe a different week. Who knows? We're having fun right now. So be on the lookout for an all-time defensive list soon. It's going to be really quick. Chris and I are probably going to name all the people from the Steel Curtain and from the teams we watch. But we will actually give that time when it comes to it. For now, we will see you all next week. Please follow the Northern Steel Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, OnlyFans, Grindr, Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, LinkedIn, Vimeo. Thank you guys for listening so much, and we will see you next week. Chris, you got any final words?
Peace out, and we love you all. That's it.
Perfect. All right. Peace.
Peace.